Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Lori Friesen, and I want to welcome you to our webinar, 5 Ways Women Can Help Their Men Become the Dads They Want Them to Be, and to avoid the mistakes you might not know you're making. I'm going to be introducing you to your host, Keith Safran, in just a moment. But first, I want to say how exciting it is that we have women joining us from all around the world today. It seems that no matter where you live or what country you're from, being a great parent and helping your partner become a great dad is certainly a topic of global interest. So it's very exciting to see that all of you are attending today. I first met Keith a couple of years ago at a Jack Canfield event, and I will never forget the first time I heard him speak about the Great Dads Project. I swear that when he got up to introduce himself and to tell his story, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. Keith has an incredible presence and a unique gift to be able to help men become aware of patterns in their behavior and then move them towards wanting and then actually creating real and positive change in their lives. I've seen it again and again in his work with men. So as you'll experience in the next hour, Keith is truly a master teacher. And I think it's his blend of strength and vulnerability that men are most drawn to. Keith is a man that men and families can trust, a rare quality these days, I think. In addition to all of these natural gifts, Keith completed his undergraduate and graduate studies in rhetoric at the University of California, Berkeley, and he also earned his master's in biblical studies from Asbury Seminary. He has inspired fathers for 30 years from all walks of life, from executives to inmates, to become the dad their children need and want. Keith is a Jack Canfield certified success skills trainer. He is the author of the award-winning book, How to Be a Great Dad, No Matter What Kind of Father You Had. Through his years of pastoral work as a founding board member and fatherhood trainer for the Prison Entrepreneurship Program, and now as founder of the Great Dads Project, Keith has touched thousands of lives. Men who want to be great dads love the stories Keith tells, the practical tools he teaches, and the personal coaching he offers. Please join me in welcoming Keith Safran.
Thank you, Dr. Lori, for such a warm and personal introduction. I really appreciate it. You know, thanks. Someone once wrote, behind every great man stands a surprised woman. I hope that's not entirely true, though I certainly understand the humor that points to this common reality. That quip plays off the well-known idiom that behind every great man stands a great woman. The point is that women have tremendous power to affect men in numerous ways, including making men far better than we ever would be without a woman's love, presence, belief, and encouragement in our lives. If women truly understood that most men are starved for affirmation, that is, still seeking in most cases their father's approval, his pride in them, women would then hold the key to unlocking their partner's greatness as a man and as a father. My name is Keith Safran. As Dr. Lori mentioned, I am the founder of the Great Dads Project, author of the award-winning book, How to Be a Great Dad, no matter what kind of father you had. Though dads comprise the primary audience of the book, many women have read and loved it, commenting on how useful it was to them as a mother and as a way to understand their man better, his struggles and his needs, and a way to help him become a better dad to their children, which of course is the focus of this webinar. Thank you so much for joining the webinar today, those who are here live and those who will listen to the recording. Thank you for taking time to learn proven ways to help the father of your children be everything he can be as a dad, whether he's still living with you and your children or not. Your participation today tells me you're committed to your kids. You love them, you want the best for them, and that you already realize how important their dad's role is in their lives. You know, since we're going to spend nearly the next hour together, perhaps it would be helpful for you to hear a little bit of my story so you know that you can trust what I will say and you see why I can help your partner become a great dad. Figuring out how important a dad is came to me through a long journey of healing my own life from the pain I experienced since my early childhood with my dad, and then having to learn how to be the kind of dad for my 3 sons I wish my dad have been able to be for me. My dad left our family when I was 7 years old. He was in and out of my life for the next 7 years until I responded to a Christian counselor at a tennis camp and decided that I wanted to follow the teachings of Jesus. You see, my dad was Jewish by heritage, but atheist by belief, and he felt personally rejected, I think. In his pain, he ended up rejecting me. In fact, he actually said, "I don't understand how any child of mine could believe something so stupid." Things were very strained between us for the next 2 years, which were my first 2 years of high school, until my younger brother died. My dad wrongly believed that I was okay because I must have believed that my brother would be in heaven. In my father's grief, he completely rejected me, not realizing how deeply I also was grieving and how I turned away from God at that time in my sadness, confusion, and anger. There were many more rejections from my dad over the next 22 years. The last time I spoke to him, I asked him to be more of a dad to me. His response was simply, "I don't want that." And he walked out of my life. I never heard from him again. 2 years later, I heard he had died in his apartment from heart failure. I was now completely fatherless. The last words my father ever spoke to me were that he didn't want to be my dad. I actually spent years in therapy working out the pain of his repeated rejections and the lack of his love in my life. I slowly came to understand his own life better, to grow in empathy and compassion for him, and to ultimately forgive him, and to let the pain begin to go. When I was 37 years old and my wife and I had our first child, I quickly realized that although I really wanted to be a good dad, I had almost no idea of how to do that. I did not have a positive role model in my own father and certainly no instruction from him. He had not prepared me to be a good dad. And although, like so many men, I swore to be a better dad than I felt he had been to me, those vows are easily broken unless we have consciously learned and been able to therefore choose a different path. I wasn't there yet. I had to learn step by step, first by asking other good fathers to mentor me, then by reading good parenting books, going to parenting classes, and investing in and pursuing my own healing journey, so I would not repeat the mistakes of the past as so many men subconsciously do. It took me years to outgrow my father's example and to heal my father wound. That is, the emotional pain, the subconscious thoughts and patterns, and the relational problems that riddled my life because of the brokenness in my relationship with my dad. As I healed and outgrew these things in myself, I experienced the profound privilege of helping other men. For 6 years, I worked with about 600 incarcerated men in the Texas prison system, helping them in the same ways I had helped myself, healing the wounds in their soul from bad relationships with their dads, and helping them reach out to and reconnect with their children whom they had substantially abandoned. Because of my work with these 600 men over 6 years, about 2,000 children experienced their father's love and felt his pride, most of them for the first time. It was an awesomely rewarding experience. That's me in the middle in the black shirt and arms stretched wide. Those years of working one-on-one and in groups with men transformed me as much as it did them. I like to say that I actually discovered my life's work in prison, transforming fathers into great dads. You know, any man can become a father, but it takes someone special, substantially healed, and well taught to become a great dad. That's what I love to do, to teach and inspire fathers to become great dads. And indirectly, that's why you're here today. So that's enough about me. Let's talk about you. What will you gain by listening to this entire webinar? What benefits will you derive? Here are the top 4. First, you'll learn 5 key strategies that really work with men. Second, you'll discover practical things that you can act on today, right after the webinar. Third, you'll begin to see results almost immediately as you practice these 5 strategies. And fourth, you'll be given an idea for the best Father's Day gift you've ever given. So stay with me to the very end. I'm going to teach you today 5 ways you can help your man to become the great dad you've always hoped he would be. And as you listen, you're going to quickly notice that criticizing him, though entirely natural and sometimes well-deserved, isn't on the list. Why? Because criticism actually works against what you really want. You want to help him grow and listen. You see, we men resist criticism because it often plays directly into our father wound. When we didn't get enough praise and love from our fathers, we tend to long for it all our lives. Many men still feel the criticism or lack of approval of our fathers. More criticism now feels like salt in our wounds. We recoil, resist, dig in our heels, and often push or even fight back. And that doesn't create transformation, the very thing you're hoping for. So these 5 proven strategies will work far better. The first is to trust him with your children. Trust him with your children. You see, many of us men feel inadequate to take care of our children, even though we often want to. Most of us never took care of younger siblings. We didn't babysit. We didn't play with dolls, play house, or make believe we were nurturing caregivers. We shot things. We blew things up and slammed our bodies into each other, feeling very manly. But seriously, most of us feel bewildered when we first become fathers, and we need help. We need training. But if our partners or wives critique our early efforts to father, or worse, don't trust us to do so, those profound feelings of inadequacy many of us men know all too well rise to the surface and can quickly shut down our desire to draw close to our children. Now, when I say trust him with your children, I'm the first to admit there's good reason not to leave him alone with the kids, especially when they're young and helpless. You ever seen this picture? I don't know what she was worried about, leaving me home to watch the kid. Right. Or this one, parenthood. Now you have someone who will always go along with your brilliant ideas. Or this, parenting. Who says it has to be difficult? Right. Just lock them in the kennel. So granted, there are realistic fears about leaving men alone with the kids, but we really do need this trust from you and alone time with them to help us grow and bond. When my first son, JD, was just 9 months old, my wife decided to become a teacher at Gymboree, a fun exercise class for parents and their babies and toddlers. What that meant for me was that I had to leave work on Wednesday evenings to drive to meet her and JD at class. Since she was the teacher, I was the parent who played with JD throughout the experience. She would stay to teach the next 2 sessions, and I was responsible for taking JD home by myself. He was just a baby. I mean, I had no idea what to do with him, but my wife insisted. She had faith, or pretended to, that he would still be alive when she got home. She actually trusted me to fly solo on infant care. And that turned out to be so good for me. It began to build my confidence as a dad. That was how JD and I began to bond more deeply. I am thankful she trusted me to do this, even though I felt incompetent and honestly a bit scared. I mean, what if he wouldn't eat? What if something happened I didn't know how to take care of? What if I couldn't meet his needs? With some trepidation, I packed JD in his diaper bag into the back seat of my Ford Bronco after class, strapped him into his car seat, drove him home, chatting with him, that is, mostly to him, as we drove. Then when we got home, I made some simple dinner for him, dry Cheerios and yogurt, I recall. I bathed him, yes, all by myself, in the kitchen sink, put a fresh diaper on him, and changed him into his onesie PJs. Then I crawled into bed with him, and I read him some stories. One of our favorites was From Head to Toe by Eric Carle. We must have read that entertaining book 100 times. It's a wonderful and amusing children's book filled with big, colorful pictures, and it progresses through various animals and the movements they make, such as a penguin turning his head, a giraffe bending his neck, a donkey kicking his legs, and a gorilla pounding his chest. For each one, the book then asks the young reader, "Can you do it?" I'd point to each of the pictures as I read, and JD and I would make the sounds and movements of each animal, laughing as we did. What a delightful and playful experience every time we read it. Then I'd lay with him in the dark as he fell asleep. I'd try to sing to him, though I have the singing voice of a tractor. I'd pray with him and whisper to him how much I loved him. I still tear up remembering those fulfilling moments in my early daddying days. I now realize those dad and son nights with JD and so many other experiences like these with him and later with my other two boys created the foundational building blocks for what our relationships have become today, 16 years later. Moms, if you want your partner to become a great dad, choose to trust him with your children. Look for opportunities to leave him alone so he has to do it on his own, and encourage him that he really can do this because he can. So leave him alone with the kids when you go shopping. Don't always take the kids with you. Encourage him to take one child with him when he does errands. Take some time for yourself with girlfriends and don't get a babysitter. Instead, arrange it when dad can have some time alone with the kids. And encourage him to have a once-a-month daddy-daughter or daddy-son day, just so they can get some time alone and he knows that you trust him to do it. Trust him with your children. The second thing is to praise his every effort to nurture. Since so many of us men did not receive nurture from our own fathers, it can feel awkward for us to be loving or tender or affectionate with our kids. Many of us simply don't know what to do. When our partners praise us for trying, that praise can feel incredibly good. When we're praised for our efforts, we men want to do more of whatever it is we're praised for. I hate to admit it, but it's a bit like Pavlov's research on dogs. If the shoe fits, well, you know the rest of the line. But it's true. Men love to please and receive praise for doing so. When our wives or partners praise us for what often feel like our stumbling attempts to nurture, we can just light up. And we usually want to try it again and again and again. To hear words such as, "Honey, when you scooped Blake up after he fell off his bike, did you notice how quickly he relaxed in your arm and how safe he felt with you? You are such a great dad." Oh my goodness. Or, "I loved watching you read to Emily tonight. She seemed so happy to feel your love and care. We're so lucky to have such a great dad in the house." Moms, even if it's not entirely true yet, words like that fill our tanks with fuel that will profoundly help us to keep moving forward in our effort to learn to be good, loving dads. So if you want to help your partner become a great dad, every time you see him make any effort to nurture your children, praise him for it. And just watch him grow right before your eyes to become a better, more engaged, and loving dad. Observing him nurturing your kids really just means spotting him appropriately hugging or snuggling them or touching them on the arm or squeezing them on the shoulder or speaking to them in supportive, caring, and affectionate ways. This may seem obvious and natural to you as a woman, but believe me, this can be a real effort for us men if we haven't received this kind of nurturing from our dads. Praise his every effort to nurture. The third point is to make home a place he wants to be. Why do you think so many men spend too much time at work and not enough with their families and children? The answer is because at work we know how to get the praise we crave. Most of us have been educated and trained to do what we do. We put a lot of effort into it, and we love to fix problems. At work, there are usually lots of problems that need fixing. And when we do what we're good at doing, when we perform, we often get rewarded in some way. Maybe a pat on the back or a raise, a promotion, perhaps a parking spot, a nicer office, maybe just an Employee of the Week recognition. But it all feels great. At home, the problems we face often defy fixing. Crying babies, sickness, exhaustion, sometimes grumpy wife, overloaded schedule, kids who won't comply, you name it. And if we feel inadequate, overwhelmed, and most importantly, criticized, well, we often gravitate, usually without even knowing why, to where we're getting the kudos we missed from Dad and that feel like life to us now. Many men tend to find it easier to get those at work than at home. Now, you're likely way ahead of me. What if your man felt more praised at home than he does at work? What if he felt that the people at home were happier to see him than his colleagues are at work? Where do you think he would want to spend more time? Perhaps enough said. So make home a place he wants to be. Even if he makes a complete mess when trying to feed the children, focus on the positive of him caring for the children rather than the mess he made, and hopefully we'll clean up later. Now, another suggestion, but I want to say I'm very well aware of how many women are working and sometimes are the sole breadwinners while Dad stays home as the primary caregiver. Yet, so many men I coach tell me how incredible it feels when they arrive back home from work or any time he's away from home, and their children enthusiastically greet him when he walks in the door. This might seem old-fashioned, but this is really important to men. It makes us feel good. It feeds our fragile egos and makes us want to come home and be home more. So if your situation allows for it, encourage your kids to show Dad how happy they are he's home. Even if that means a divorced dad just coming by to pick them up. When he's enthusiastically greeted and he knows he's been missed, he'll want to do that more. Make home the place he wants to be. My fourth point is to dream with him about new and creative fathering experiences. Many of us men have a hard time thinking creatively about fun experiences to have with our children. We tend to think more creatively about problem solving and work-related stuff just because we spend most of our lives doing that. But if our partners say something like, "Hey, have you thought about taking Johnny to a pro baseball game, just the two of you?" Or, "I think Susie would just love to go horseback riding with you for her birthday." Or, "What about taking the kids for a picnic? A play day in the park, just you and the kids." You just might be surprised at the great ideas we think we came up with, and we just might do them. If you want to help your partner become a great dad, dream with him. And notice I didn't say tell him what to do, but dream with him about new and creative fathering experiences. And the last of the 5 key strategies for helping your partner become a great dad, though perhaps the most important, is treat him like the dad you want him to become. This should make perfect sense by now. Imagine what your man would feel if you said to him, "Oh, honey, you are such a great dad. I feel lucky to have married a man who gives so much to our children. Our kids are blessed beyond belief to have you as their dad." Can you just imagine what he would feel if you said something like that? or wrote that on a card to him, perhaps for Father's Day in 2 weeks. And again, it doesn't have to all be true yet. You may be speaking of a vision you hold in the future more than the man you see in the moment. But that's okay. Actually, it's great. It's called visualization, and it really works. You can literally speak us into reality. So create the man you want by affirming what you believe he can become. It actually works. Trust me. In fact, it works both ways. Criticize and belittle him, and you'll create a man you may wish to divorce. Praise and affirm him, and you'll empower your man to become the partner and father he longs to be, and you wish he'd become. If you want him to become a great dad, then treat him and speak to him as if he were already the dad you want him to be, and just watch him change before your eyes over time. You see, behind nearly every great dad stands a woman who knows how to praise the father of her children, even if she has to add a little vision to her praise. So we've talked about 5 key strategies for helping your man become the dad you want him to be. The first was to trust him with your children. The second, praise his every effort to nurture. Third, make home a place he wants to be. Fourth, dream with him about new and creative fathering experiences. And fifth, treat him like the dad you want him to become. You see, you have tremendous power to help him become the man and dad you wish him to be, and he likely longs to be. And in the process, you may actually help him heal some of the wound his father may have created. One of my great passions in life is helping men heal their father wound. My award-winning book, How to Be a Great Dad, no matter what kind of father you had, is in part written for that very purpose. The second half of the book is about healing a father wound. I tell my own story openly about my painful relationship with my father, the steps I've taken to heal and forgive, and how that journey has helped me become the dad I always wished I'd had. You might consider picking up a copy for your partner, even reading it yourself. A woman named Jennifer Reed Hawthorne is an international speaker, award-winning and best-selling author, and actually one of the editors of my book. She wrote and said, "I am not even the audience for this book, and yet I was moved to tears numerous times. It gave me a new perspective on my own wounds, having lost my biological father 5 weeks before I was born. And it showed me how I can be a better mother to my 2 adult stepchildren. The content is relevant and timely, and you're providing an answer to a problem that has the potential to profoundly impact the world by modeling and teaching how to transform non-love into love. What could be better than that?" Susan Alexis is an international Enneagram facilitator and coach and the founder of the Enneagram Prison Project and a friend. She wrote that being in the presence of Keith's writing is like being perched over an intimate cup of tea with a perceptive and wise friend. Though I'm not a father, I do have one. I'm not a son, but I mother 3 of them. Finally, there is a book, a guide of sorts, illustrating what thoughtful fathering actually looks like with real-life, raw, human examples of his own and others. This work is as practical as it is deeply soulful. Through his own compelling self-observation and personal disclosure, it's obvious that Keith had steeped in and skillfully examined his own human and humbling experience of both parenting and being parented. This enabled me to trust him, and it allowed me to trust myself in taking his life lessons to heart. In particular, Keith's masterful, gentle chapter on healing the father wound and grief allowed me to begin to navigate an aching part of my own life. What a nourishing read for me as I make sense of how I was fathered, what my boys are seeking in their dad, and how I can come alongside my husband in co-parenting our children with a new comprehension and compassion. So perhaps you're now wondering, what can you do next? Let me give you a few very practical suggestions. First, begin to practice the 5 strategies I've taught you today immediately, and just watch and see what a difference they make. Second, let your partner know that you participated in this webinar and that you intend to be a more affirming partner to him. Actually tell him. Just share it with him. As one woman noted, if men experience their wives being kinder and more positive towards them, they will want to know where they're learning that stuff. You might actually be able to point him in my direction and allow me to help. Third thing you can do is make sure that he knows that I'm offering a webinar for dads next week on Thursday. He can sign up, or you can even sign him up with his permission right away. Go to my upcoming events page on my website, www.thegreatdadsproject, dads is plural, thegreatdadsproject.org, O-R-G. And you can register, or he can register, for that free webinar next week, especially for dads. Now that webinar next week, here's the title: 3 massive mistakes busy dads make that cause their kids to pull away from them and completely shut them out. For every dad who registers for that webinar, I'm going to provide a free digital download of my book, just for participating, just for registering actually. So if he registers for that webinar, he'll get my book digitally for free. Again, the webinar for dads next week, titled 3 Massive Mistakes Busy Dads Make That Cause Their Kids to Pull Away from Them and Completely Shut Them Out. And just to encourage you, to encourage him, I'm going to share with you the 3 mistakes that I'm going to share with him next Thursday. The first mistake men make is that we leave child rearing to mom. We just default. We expect the women to do it. The second is that we go it alone. We father in isolation. No mentoring, no training, no accountability, no encouragement. We try to do it on our own like pretty much everything else in our lives, and many of us are not successful at doing it that way. The third mistake is we father on autopilot. In other words, we are stuck in wait and react mode. Very few of us have a vision for what we're trying to create in our children or in our family. We don't plan. We don't think much about it. We walk in the door and we just react to what we find before us, and it doesn't work too well. Now, I want you to encourage your husband, your partner, to get on this webinar next week, but I want to give you a little bit of a warning too. I want you to be careful about how you present this free webinar to him. Be careful about the language you use, because remember, criticism of us as dads, whether it's real or just perceived, will likely shut us down, cause us to resist, dig in our heels, or even push back. We may not choose to do something we know is good for us if we think we're being told we must, or if we feel criticized. So be careful not to say or imply that he's a bad dad, and that's why he needs this webinar. Perhaps say something like this: honey, I just listened in on a great webinar for moms by a man who founded something called the Great Dads Project, and he wrote a book about being a great dad. I learned a lot from him, and he said he's offering another webinar for dads next week, and it sounds really good. It might be of interest to you, and it might help you be an even better dad than you already are. Did you hear those last words? It might help you be an even better dad than you already are. Now, on that webinar for dads, when I'm done, at the very end of it, I'm going to offer to the men a 7-module online webinar course that I will be leading starting the Wednesday after Father's Day. That course is called Create Fantastic Relationships with Your Kids and Never Worry Again about Being a Bad Dad. Create fantastic relationships with your kids. That 7-module online webinar course is for busy dads who want to have great relationships with their kids. There's going to be 5 teaching modules and 2 laser coaching modules where I work one-on-one with men for about 10 minutes or so while other men listen in. And at the end of the course, for every man who participates, I will offer a complimentary 45-minute private Become a Great Dad strategic coaching session with me personally. Now again, I want you to know the content of this webinar course because I'm going to offer you something in just a moment. Here's what this course is going to be. The first session is going to be called The Profound Impact of Fathers. Leave the legacy you want. The second, why saying I'm proud of you makes all the difference. Why when a dad says I'm proud of you to his kids, it makes all the difference. Third, why saying I love you no matter what means so much to your kids. The fourth session is going to be laser coaching, again where I work one-on-one with men while other men listen in. The fifth session is why a hug isn't just a hug when it comes from dad. Teaching dads to be physically and verbally affectionate with their kids. The sixth will be another laser coaching session. And then the last module will be all about taking action, really challenging the men to put it all together and to make it real in their lives and the lives of their children and families. Now this entire 7-module online webinar course, the enrollment price for the entire thing is $347, which is just less than $50 per session. Already a good deal. But I'm offering early bird pricing if you purchase this course for your husband after this webinar as a gift for Father's Day. The early bird discount is only $197, which means you save $150 off the regular price. Moms, this would be a fantastic Father's Day gift for your husband this year. It could change your family life forever. And again, just be careful. If you purchase this for Father's Day, be careful how you communicate it when you gift it to him. Be careful that you're not saying or even implying that he's a bad dad who needs help. This will just help him be an even better dad than he already is. You got it? An even better dad than he already is. And let me help you. Let me present this to your husband on the webinar next week. So if you're thinking about purchasing this for Father's Day, just make sure that he registers for that free webinar next week. And I'll do my part in preparing him to receive this from you as a gift to help him be an even better dad than he already is. And then you can gift this course to him for Father's Day after that webinar. Let me share this with you. Tracy is the wife of one of the men that I coach one-on-one individually to be a great dad. She recently sent me this email and she gave me permission to share it. She said, "Thank you. Your coaching has and continues to have a huge impact. For the many years we've been married, I've hoped and prayed that my husband would have a mentor coach, not just for parenting, but for life. He has found that with you and your Great Dads Project. The man at home is content in his own skin. He looks for ways to connect with the kids. He is present in ways he has never been before. The judgment, frustration, and anger have gone. The things he's learning and applying have changed our whole family life. It is the very best gift ever that he has given to me and our kids. It brings me to tears every time I think on it. I could go on, but I'll start to cry." Oh, I love that. So beautiful. Thank you, Tracy. Lauren is also the wife of one of the men I coach individually. She wrote and said, "I'm so thankful for the time you are spending with my husband. I always end up getting something out of it. You have made a positive impact on our family, and I am forever grateful." I want you to be able to write something like that if I can help your man become a great dad. Okay, here's what's next. That course, again, is called Create Fantastic Relationships with Your Kids and Never Worry Again About Being a Bad Dad. 7 modules, 7 weeks, online webinar. There will be recordings, so even if the man can't make it to 1 week or another, he'll be able to get the recording. Here's what's going to happen. After this webinar, I'm going to send you an email that has a link that allows you to purchase this entire 7-week webinar course for the dad in your family as a perfect Father's Day gift this year. You will not have to pay the full price of $347. This link that I'll send you will allow you to purchase the course for the early bird special price of $197. And I will be sending you the recording of this webinar as well. Please, please, please feel free to share that recording this week with any other mom that you think would benefit. And I will extend the special price for this Father's Day gift to them as well. So when I send you the email, you'll have the link to purchase the course, and I'll also send you the recording of this webinar. Please share it. I'm going to encourage you to act today. Give your man, yourself, and your family the best Father's Day gift ever. It literally could change your family life forever the way it's changing Tracy's and Lauren's. By applying what you've learned on this webinar today, and with my help teaching your partner through my webinar course, we can together help him become the great dad that you long for him to be, and he probably wants to be himself. Thank you so much for spending this hour with me. Look for that email with the link to get the course for the soon-to-be great dad, or even better dad, in your family. I wish you the best, and I'm so glad that we've had this time together. Thank you.